Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here with me today because honestly, we're going to look at something that completely flips our modern work culture on its head. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Today, we're exploring the incubation effect, the psychology of quiet wealth creation. You know, we live in this era where we're constantly told that to be successful, you've got to be relentlessly hustling, constantly posting, and just forever plugged in, right? But the science is actually showing us something entirely different. It turns out the absolute best, most profitable business ideas, they don't actually surface in the hustle. No way. They surface in the silence. So today we're going to unpack exactly why the most successful creators and knowledge sellers are actively prioritizing privacy over popularity.
Now, I really want you to answer this honestly for a second. Do your best ideas happen while you're endlessly scrolling? Think about it. Have you ever noticed that your most brilliant, connective thoughts never seem to show up when you're sitting in some chaotic, loud meeting? Or when you're lost in this absolute sea of red social media notifications, desperately trying to keep up with the timeline? Yeah, they don't. Because when you're burnt out and you're constantly reacting to your environment, your brain simply does not have the bandwidth or the space to create. Actually, the most profound insights usually hit you when you're in the shower, taking a quiet walk, or literally just staring out a window. Well, there's a deep psychological reason for that, and it's the exact mechanism that high-level wealth creators use to their absolute advantage.
So, that brings us right into Section 1, Escaping the Social Noise.
We carry this really deep-seated guilt in our society about stepping away from the keyboard. We tend to frame taking a break or disconnecting from all that digital chatter as laziness or like we're somehow falling behind. But science-backed insights actually reveal that escaping this social noise isn't just some luxurious vacation for your mind. It is an absolutely crucial psychological requirement for high-level problem solving. If you want to create true wealth from your knowledge, disconnecting is literally step one of the work. See, when we disconnect, we're triggering what psychologists call the incubation effect. This is basically the act of consciously stepping away from a problem and allowing your subconscious to synthesize information in the background. Successful creators aren't just magically smarter than the rest of us. They're utilizing this specific mental mechanism. Think about the brain's default mode network. When you stop actively focusing on a screen, this powerful network lights up in your brain, burning immense energy to connect totally disparate ideas. So your subconscious does all the heavy lifting, forging these high-value assets right there in the background. You're essentially just letting your mind bake the ingredients you've already gathered.
We're kind of caught between two realities here. On one side, we have the loud world. This is a state of constant consumption, endless scrolling, reacting to breaking news, just constantly participating in the noise. And sure, it feels productive, but honestly, it's really just exhausting. But then on the other side, true knowledge-based wealth is born in the quiet world. This is the domain of mental rest and building quiet systems. Look, societal myths tell you that you must constantly consume to succeed. But the psychological reality? The reality is that true, knowledge-based wealth is exclusively born during these quiet periods. You simply cannot build a profound system while you're constantly drowning in the loud world. It just doesn't work.
Let's move on to Section 2, Protecting Cognitive Bandwidth.
Think about it this way. If your business is your brain, then your brain's processing power is your most valuable inventory. You wouldn't just leave the front door to your physical store wide open for anyone to come in and totally trash the place, right? So why do we do it with our minds? Selling your knowledge requires this intense, fiercely protected mental clarity. And the absolutely crucial practice here is digital minimalism. Now, this isn't just about tossing your phone in the trash. It's a highly strategic practice of protecting your cognitive bandwidth from being totally drained by irrelevant information. Because think about it, every piece of gossip, every trending outrage, every fleeting digital trend, it all requires your brain to process it. By adopting digital minimalism, you're essentially putting up a shield. You're preserving your mental energy so it can be directed entirely toward the deep, complex work of actually building your own business assets.
Just imagine chasing a viral social media trend. It's this sharp, red, fleeting spike. It's loud, it's urgent, and let's face it, it disappears almost as fast as it arrived. It drains your bandwidth for a momentary rush. Now contrast that with a quiet business asset, something like an online course or a digital system. This represents steady, yellow, compounding growth. Every single minute you spend reacting to the red alert, fleeting spikes of social media is literally a minute stolen from the deep work you need to build a compounding golden asset. You've got to make a choice about where your bandwidth goes.
All right, Section 3, the psychology of independence.
So we've talked a bit about the mechanics of how we think, but let's shift gears and focus on who we are. Like, what are the actual psychological traits required to sell your knowledge and break completely free from that traditional 9-to-5 mindset? While stepping out of the traditional workforce isn't just a career move, it's a massive shift in how you view authority and safety. It requires developing an internal locus of control. This means you start trusting your own internal data and your own expertise way more than you trust the external validation of some corporate hierarchy. In a traditional job, you wait for a boss to tell you you did a good job. You wait for that annual review to somehow dictate your worth. But when you build your own knowledge-based systems, you stop waiting for that loud corporate structure. You actually find your safety and your validation in the functionality of the systems you've built with your very own hands. It's a real game changer.
And for a lot of you watching this explainer, this evolutionary path is going to feel incredibly validating. It often starts way back with step 1, high childhood self-reliance. Many independent creators grew up in environments where they just had to manage their own worlds early on. And this naturally evolves into step 2, a distrust of loud traditional employment. Because you learn to rely on yourself, surrendering your financial safety to the whims of an employer, well, it feels inherently unsafe to your nervous system, which ultimately leads to step 3, creating a secure, private income system. In psychology, they actually call this survival independence. Your nervous system literally only feels truly at peace when you are in total control of your own income, operating a private world that just doesn't depend on anyone else's permission.
Which leads us nicely into section 4, your mental evolution.
I really want to empower you with this next concept. So often when we start pulling back from social media, or we stop wanting to go to literally every networking event, society is quick to label us as antisocial or withdrawn. But pulling back from the noise, that's not a flaw. It's a powerful mental evolution. It takes immense emotional maturity to let go of public applause, that frantic instinct to chase red social validation, and exchange it for private, yellow, objective results. Successful knowledge sellers use really high emotional regulation to just hit pause on that instinct to be seen. They prefer the quiet stability of a functioning income system over the fleeting high of being noticed online.
So ultimately, this quiet wealth creation really just comes down to a few key traits. First, you value objective results over likes, period. Second, you actively regulate the instinct to stay popular. Third, you view loud attention not as a goal, but as a total distraction from your deep work. And finally, you build quiet stability in the background. While everyone else out there is just exhausting themselves performing on the digital stage, you're off stage quietly tinkering with functioning systems that actually generate true independence. Take those renowned creators who only ever surface to drop immense value and then immediately retreat back to build. That is literally the exact playbook in action.
I love this thought. You aren't broken. You are simply wired to value your peace. Look, if you find yourself craving silence, if you want to turn your thoughts into a business but you have absolutely zero desire to be an influencer, I'm here to tell you there is nothing wrong with you. You're just undergoing a psychological shift where your self-worth is no longer tied to external noise. Tying your worth to your own personal systems rather than public applause is a massive psychological advantage. You, my friend, are literally wired for the incubation effect.
So I want to leave you with one final provocative question today. Will you build in the noise, or will you profit in the silence? Because the choice of where you deploy your cognitive bandwidth is entirely yours. You can keep fighting for a microphone in a crowded room, or you can step outside, embrace the quiet, and let your subconscious build an empire. If you want to continue mastering the psychological frameworks that most people completely ignore, make sure you subscribe to The Explainer. We'll keep bringing the hidden systems of success directly to you. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.